All right, guys. So we got American Dream Podcast, episode 8. I have a guest that's going to blow your guys' mind. We got Tommy Land in the building here. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm fantastic, bro. So nice to be on your show.
Man, it's so nice to have you because out of everybody I've had on, which are some cool people, I don't think any of them rival your stories. I mean, your stories are out of this world.
Yeah, sometimes they're unbelievable.
And hey, I've been there for some of them, so I believe them to the fullest extent possible. Yeah. So I just want to get right into it because I know we have a lot to talk about. I don't want to waste any of your time.
Let's go.
Perfect. So just to get started here, kind of introduce yourself. Let us know how you got the name Tommy Land and how everything just kind of came to be with your origin story.
Yeah, so, I grew up selling electronics, working at places like Circuit City, Best Buy, things like that. But back before it was professional, it was kind of like a gangster thing, man. Back in like late 70s, early 80s, there was hi-fi stores, and guys were still smoking cigarettes on the floor.
Right.
And they didn't even price anything back in the day. Like, they didn't price speakers, they didn't price receivers, none of that. But back in the day, everybody had to have big hi-fi stuff in their homes. So, working on a sales floor, a guy come in, and he'd see a Yamaha receiver, and sometimes I'd sell it to a guy for $1,000. If I didn't like the guy, I'd sell it for $1,200. But the extra
so you
money,
hustled it.
Yeah, but the extra money would go into our pocket. Like, we were on
wow.
100% commission. I just happened to be really, really good at it, and I put myself through college selling hi-fi on the sales floor, and worked at a company called Federated back in the day, and then from there I went to another company called The Good Guys, and actually was the number one salesperson in the company at Federated at a young age. And you imagine in the 80s making a 6-figure income, in your young 20s, driving a Porsche, living by the beach, and living a bachelor lifestyle. It was really fun.
You're living the American dream.
Living the American dream at a young age, man. But that's that California, beach lifestyle, kind of cool. I've been blessed my whole life. But I worked extremely, really hard for it. Be successful like that. We had minimum shifts, but I'd really work 7 days a week, 10 hours a day for the grind, just to get that number one spot all the time. I just had to always be number one at what I did. The industry changed and it became more corporate. The Best Buys in the Circuit Cities of the world came around, and there was price protection, and you wore suits every day to the floor, and of course the smoking days went away, and all that stuff just changed and became very professional. But at Circuit City, out of 40,000 salespeople on the floor, I was pretty much number one every single month. But I've always thought different. I've always thought out of the box. So when you are on the sales floor, basically you can just walk up to any customer and you can just talk to them.
Right.
But what I found was there's only so many customers. And so thinking outside the box, what I did, because I worked in Orange County, and I went to Knott's Berry Farm and went to Disneyland, and I put flyers in their break rooms and worked with their human resources managers to sell to all their employees. And so I started doing corporate sales. And then I started working with celebrities and Hollywood and baseball players and actors and a lot of music people back in the day, selling them goods and stuff like that. So I used to close my store down in Hollywood, and I used to sell to Michael Jackson privately. So so Michael would come in, and Stevie Wonder and a bunch of guys like that, and we would sell them privately in the morning before the store opened up. And like Stevie Wonder would come in and buy 40 camcorders for his family. Like Michael Jackson was just a crazy video game guy. So when Sega Genesis came out, he ordered like 100 of them every single game. And he'd ask my employees to come over to his house and show him how to play the games. And he paid them money like it was crazy. They go back, I just got $1,000 to play games with Michael Jackson. I said, well, that was a pretty good day.
I would have done it for free.
Yeah, I would have done it for free, right? Yeah.
How did that transition happen, right? Because wow. How do you get in touch with Michael Jackson? How do you get in touch with...
well, someone calls the store, and of course I'm the store manager at the time. And they said, we're going to speak to the store manager. Yeah, I'm representing Michael Jackson. He'd like to come in your store privately, either before or after the store. We used to open at 10, so he'd come in like 8:30, 9 o'clock and do private shopping. Yeah, we did that for a lot of celebs back in the day. It was really, really fun. But, I went on to be very successful at that and spent years at that. But, people always ask me, well, how come you're so good in sales? How come you're so good with your customers? And, you know, sales is a technique, and I try to tell everybody, and no matter what position you're in life, you're always in sales.
Right.
You know, if you go to a job interview, you have to sell yourself, right? And it's like, you know, dating. You know, you have to sell yourself to a girl too, or you're not going to get the date. But it's just life is really, really about sales. I always talk about this example. So, I worked for a place called The Good Guys, and you know, this is when big screens were just flying out the door, and everybody had to have a big screen. You know, there was no projectors at this time, and there was no flat screen TV. This was like everybody either bought 50-inch or 60-inch televisions. So Mitsubishi introduced a 70-inch television, and it sold for $10,000. And Good Guys only were going to bring in 10 to the whole company, right? And only certain stores were selected. Well, I happened to be the top salesman in the company, but I worked in an Anaheim store as a slow store. Just I could close any customer that came in the store. So I went to my store manager and said, we got to have that TV in here. He said, well, we're not programmed for it. So I called the district manager, went over to my store manager and said, listen, I'm going to sell one of those a month. I got to have that here. He goes, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give it to you, but if you don't sell this month, I'm going to deprogram it. You can't have it. So they shipped it the next day. I went into the sound room. I set it up with the top-of-the-line receiver, top-of-the-line speakers, had my demo set up, and this is back when we had laser disc. I know people who are watching this, what's a laser disc? They don't even know what that is.
I don't even know what that
is.
Yeah,
exactly. Right? So that was what was before DVD, right? So laser disc was a big disc player, and that's how you watched your movies, yeah.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was very, very popular before. That was prior to DVD, so it was just a bigger format, but crazy, yeah. Yeah, it just makes me old. That's okay.
No, hey, this is knowledge right here. This is
technology.
It's a piece of history.
So the first day, I get this thing set up, you know, and the first customer walked in. I said, would you like to see the latest in technology? Can I show you the most unbelievable thing that ever came out? I'd walk in and show them, do the demo for them. Next customer would come in. I said, would you like to see the latest in technology? And so every single customer I showed it to. Well, at the end of the night, everybody went home. And I was the last guy in the store because I worked those type of hours. And here comes this guy, and I said, hey, would you like to see the latest in technology? Can you believe Mitsubishi just came out with a 70-inch? Let me show you this demo. The guy goes, that's unbelievable. I want that TV. I want the surround sound. And the guy dropped $17,000 on the first day on the sell the TV. Called the DM, said, I sold one. He said, that's impossible. I said, yeah, it's rolling today, buddy. And he goes, that's impossible. So at the end of that month, the company sold 8, and I sold 5 of them.
Wow. And not only did you sell them, you upsold
and
too.
that was 70 stores. And out of 70 stores, I sold 5. So people always said, well, how'd you sell 5? I said, well, see, you're trying to sell it. I don't want to sell it. I just want to show it. But how many people want to show it to? I showed it to everybody who walked in the door. That's how I sold 5.
Wow. So are you focusing on building rapport, creating a sense of urgency, emotional goals outside of just showing them, you know, for sales techniques and
creating the excitement of the brand and the thing, you know, the like people see something and it's just overwhelming. It's so cool. I got to have it. You know, it's just like
building benefit. And building
of course.
Value.
And you know, I've always been a people person. I love people, man. I love all races of people. I love older people. I love younger people. I just love life and I love people, you know, and you can't teach that to somebody. You know, and the energy that you have as an aura, as a person, you know, people talk about swag. You know, ball players got swag. When you see a ball player or you see LeBron or you see Kobe or, you know, they got so much confidence.
Right.
You can't teach confidence. And, you know, confidence is built over a lifetime career or when you're successful or you got a little money to yourself because you've made it or something like that. And that twist and you know, you see confident people out, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they walk, you know, but the most successful people on earth, you know, they got a little something different about them, you know, and you always have to have something a little different about you to be successful at anything you do. And that's what I try to teach.
It's crazy that you talk about that because I saw you on Saturday with a professional baseball player.
That's right.
And you guys both had the same it factor, it seemed like. It seemed like you were an active professional baseball player.
Yeah, so, you know, the thing is like there's something called mirroring.
Right.
You know, and mirroring the people you're around. The people don't really understand what that is, but, you know, you take on the behavior of the people you surround yourself with. You know, in today's world, it's, you know, society today is so crucial against other people, and the world we live in, it's just tough out there, you know, but I think there's so much drama and there's so much negativity in the world that people kind of get sucked into that, and they don't know how to get that out of their lives, and they don't know how to be positive. And it's who you surround yourself with. You surround yourself with successful people, surround yourself with positive people, and your life changes. And that's just how it is. By like, you know, and so I've been fortunate. I mean, I've worked with almost every team in baseball, every team in football, every team, in some type of marketing aspect, and some of the greatest, sports people in the world, which we'll get into in a little bit. And it's just amazing where my life came. But I just like to start out with, because, I do consulting and I do public speaking, and I have something called The Journey. And I talk about my journey and where I was and where I went. And, I try to teach people about how to just be the best at what they do and to think differently, because if you do that, you can change really quick.
So tell us a little bit more about The Journey. I know you do motivational speaking. Uh-huh. I know that literally, and you left out a lot of people, UFC fighters. I mean, all these guys love you, right? Yeah. They all petition for you to always be around and to be involved with you. Tell us a little bit more about what The Journey means in depth, if you can.
Yeah, so, after years and years of being in retail and being successful at that, I got a call one day from an executive and an owner of a manufacturer. The manufacturer was called Monster, and the gentleman's name is Noel Lee.
Okay.
And a famous guy in the industry, built a brand from nothing out of one cable, and the guy had a vision. And being a monster is just having a monster attitude, which I already had, so I was good for the company. But being a manufacturer, then you sell to retail, right? So you manufacture all the products, you go back to retail, and then you sell to the Circuit City, you sell to Best Buys, you sell to the Targets, you sell to the Walmarts. I mean, when it comes to retail, I've sold to almost any retailer in the world that you can absolutely imagine back in that day. And so he called me up and said, hey, I'd like to interview you. I hear you're amazing at what you do, and I need a good retail guy that can come sell my products back to retail. And I said, okay. So he flew me up to San Francisco, and I was supposed to fly in for one day. I think I landed at 10 o'clock in San Francisco. My interview was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was supposed to fly out at 5 o'clock to come back to Phoenix. And at 2:30, I was still sitting in the office, still hadn't been interviewed yet. It looks like I'm going to miss my flight. And they just kept apologizing. And they said, hey, we're going to have to put you in a car. Noel's down at the Audi dealer right now, looking at a few cars, and you're going to have to go interview down there. Very interesting. And
right, so, interesting.
So a guy takes me in a Ferrari, which I thought was pretty cool. And we run down to the, local Audi dealer, and he's sitting on the showroom floor. Hey, Tom, good seeing you. I said, yeah. He said, I'm looking at these Audi TTs. I can't decide between the red or the black. I said, man, I get them both because they're so good. He said, that's a great idea. He looked at the salesman and said, I'll buy them both.
Wow.
And then so we went on the Ferrari and the convertible, and I got interviewed on the back, going in the Ferrari back to the office. And he goes, you think you could miss your flight tonight? Because tomorrow I'm doing a big presentation. I'd like to have you there. And I'm staying at the Hilton downtown San Francisco in the presidential suite. But I'll just stay at the house tonight. You can have my suite, and, it's all the food, and you could eat and drink. And, I went in bottles of champagne and flowers for the guy. And I'm thinking, he's giving me this suite. Boy, this is the best interview I've ever been on. Of course, riding around Ferraris, and the lifestyle was just already crazy. And, I interviewed and went back home 2 days later. They bought some new clothes for me because I went up there just for the day. Kind of crazy. Never heard from them for like 4 months, and then got a call again. Hey, what happened? I thought you were coming to work for me. Never got the offer letter, man. What? So he calls the HR guy right then and says, what happened? And, kind of the guy, he kind of blames everybody else for, everything else. Like when you own a company, it's that way. It's so funny. But, yeah, man, I went to work for the next day. And after that, man, it was just a whole new ride, a whole new perspective in life. And I traveled almost 300 days a year for 18 years for the company.
Unreal.
And, man, we sold in every country. We grew our brand in Canada. I've been to every city in Canada, every city in Mexico, been to Australia, even been to Russia 18 times. I got Russian stories that are crazy. Been arrested in Russia.
Oh, yeah, I don't want that. Wow.
Yeah. But just because, you're American, it's just crazy there. It's just funny. But, man, I got so many stories. We can go on and on and on. But, as a brand, our whole thing was to develop new technology, develop new products. And he was a brilliant guy. He started off, so we were an attachment selling company. And attachment selling is amazing because you have to sell hardware, but the accessories are where all the money is in that industry. And everybody always asks, so who's the best-selling attachment selling company in the world? And it's really interesting because no one would ever figure it out, but it's actually McDonald's.
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 How so? Can you elaborate on
that? Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to tell you the story, the McDonald's story.
Hear it.
So McDonald's was doing okay. You know, everything was a la carte back in the day. You know, there was no, they didn't have Happy Meals and they didn't have value meals. They didn't have none of that stuff. But there was a guy within the organization that came up with, would you like fries with that? People used to go into McDonald's and they just order a burger or a Coke or whatever. And this one concept changed the way that McDonald's would be the number one fast food company in the entire world, because everybody started buying fries just because people would ask, hey, would you like fries with that? And man, everybody would say, yeah, I want fries with that. And upselling. It's simple upselling. And they became the number one attachment selling company in the world. And they make no money when they sell burgers, chicken, nothing that. They only make money. Fries and drinks is where they make all their money. And of course, they own all their potato farms, in Idaho. They got the McDonald's logos out there. It's pretty incredible, the journey that McDonald's did, if you look at their journey and how they built their brand. But after a while, they even advanced, because once they came up with the value meal, the fries were already built into it. And then you got the fries and drink every single time, no matter package deal. Yeah. And people thought it was value. It was really not. It was the same prices, but that's how people started ordering them. But that's how they built their brand and how they built such a successful. And they're in every country in the world almost. They're just huge. But attachment selling is what we really did. We made accessories for retailers. If you bought a receiver, you bought speaker wire, you bought cables, you bought HDMI, whatever. Back in the day, if you had a receiver, you'd have to have fiber optic cable for your CD player. You have to have everything. So we made all those cables, but we made guitar cables. We made some of the best instrument cables in the world for musicians. So we wired all the studios in the world and did a lot of studio sessions. And the company just grew and grew and grew. It's just amazing. And then we actually had a music label called Monster Music. Which
and you were in charge of that, right?
Yeah. I was one of the brand executives for that. And our first big release was 3 Doors Down.
Wow, so that's a huge band.
Yeah, huge, right? So it's funny because I had my boat out at the river one day, and there's a place called Topak. It's crazy.
I'm not familiar with it.
You need to be.
Okay.
So Memorial Day weekend just passed, and all over the internet was about, oh my God, it's crazy on the river. Colorado River between Lake Havasu and Laughlin, Nevada, it just gets nuts on weekends, nuts. Topak's kind of in between before you go through the gorge, and there's a little bar there, and all the big boy $1 million boats pull up, and I think they got 75 bar stools right on the water, and they got a pool there and live music during the day. I mean, it's quite the place. But I go there for breakfast, and the sun's coming up, and all of a sudden I hear this song, man, and the beat just sticks in my head, and it's Kryptonite. And man, it just got to me. I got to figure out who this band is. And years ago, Oprah had this thing called The Gift, and it was something that you kind of manifested yourself into. And if you think hard enough about something, and it just comes fact in your life, or something crosses your path because you kind of speak it into existence.
Like the law of attraction.
Law of attraction, same thing. So, that day I'm just like, man, this band is something. Just something caught me about that particular song. And about 1.5 years later, I get a phone call from an executive on Universal, and 3 Doors was on Universal, and it said, hey, we're going to release the 3 Doors Away from the Sun album on video. We'd like to know if you guys want to distribute that and put that on your label. And so I said, absolutely we do, before I even talked to my boss. And then I told my boss we have to have a check for $1.5 million to go give it to the band. And he's like, what? What'd you do? I said, yeah, we're going to do this.
How did that conversation go?
Not good at first, until we sold hundreds of thousands of DVDs. But what we did at that time, Radio Shack had 7,500 stores nationwide, and Starbucks had just released music on the front counter. So they were selling CDs, and it was a popular thing. So I just, did a Me Too, but we did video, and we went to Radio Shack with that, and we had a display on the front of every counter, and we had it playing in the TVs so they could see it. And it was such an amazing concert live, and we sold just, hundreds of thousands of the album, the DVD, Away from the Sun. And then
marketing genius.
Yeah, I got to tour with the band, and when you tour with the band, the reason we do that is we bring all the buyers out to every show in every city where they're at and bring them backstage to meet the band, and they get to see it. So then for them, when they do that, then it's close to home, and it's a personal that you just I can't explain it, like how meaningful it is to somebody to meet like a band like that just so. I love Brad. Brad Arnold's just an amazing guy. So when he was 16 years old, he wrote Kryptonite in high school on his desk. And every day, him and his cousin Matt would take this down to the radio station, and they'd tell the DJ to play it. And for 6 months, DJ said, "No, I'm not playing that, man. I just won't play it." And they went every day. And the DJ finally said, "If I play this, will you just leave me alone? And I never have to see you again." He said, "Yeah, but you got to play it for a week." And that song took off. And, music stations are owned by other music stations. And they look at, how many daily times it plays in the tracks. And then it goes into syndication, and it gets in a region. And within just 90 days, it was a number one smash. And they got signed by Universal, and that's the end of the story, man. Just crazy. But I toured with this band, and I got just insane rock and roll stories. And the bands I got to open up with and tour with. Bands like Shinedown, which still tour, they're amazing, and they're another great band. Just tons of bands, got to work with Creed and those guys with Three Doors, and Three Doors did a bunch of just special events back in the day. Got to work with Kid Rock. Did something in Atlantic City. Oh my God, it was crazy. Some of the tour stuff we did. But when they came up to San Francisco, our office was in San Francisco, and we had a thing called the Stable, and we had this thing called California Dreamin'.
Okay.
So the top Best Buy guys, the top Circuit City guys, the top sales guys in the world that sold got to come out to the office, go through some special training. But we had a thing called the Stable. In California Dreamin', we had 50 of the most highest end cars in the world. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsche 996s, 997s. And they got to drive all these fantastic cars for 3 days and these rallies. And during the day, we'd go to Pebble Beach, or we'd go out to, wine country, and they'd all switch cars every hour, and so they could drive every amazing car in the world. Just what a fantastic way to drive your sales, because they go back, tell the story, and everybody the next year would want to sell it. Like we did things.
How motivating is that?
Yeah, but I want to talk about doing things out of the box. Come on, no other manufacturers doing those type of things, and we own these people because they only want to talk about our brand because they had such an amazing time. So Three Doors comes up, and of course Brad sees the cars. Oh man, we got to drive these cars. So I get into a Ferrari 355, which is a V12 rear engine car, not all-wheel drive. Scariest thing you've ever driven, because once it hits the power band at about 8,000, it kicks into power, and the whole back end of that car just kicks out because you just can't control it. So they didn't really let too many people drive that car because they called it possessed. Because it was just, everybody wrecked it. Everybody hurt a curb or did something. In fact, one guy actually drove over a cliff on PCH and landed in a boulder net for boulders that would drop down, and actually they craned the car out with 2 cranes, and it only had minimal damage, and the guys lived because they crawled up the net.
Huh?
Yeah,
wow,
crazy. So after that, really no one was allowed to drive the car again. So I'm driving that car, and I think
before or after the incidents.
I'm driving this 355 with 3 doors, right? And so I think we got 7 or 8 cars. Noel's up front in a Lambo Aventador. And we're up on like the 380 up above the hills, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and we're doing about 105, maybe 110 in a line on the freeway. And this is a 5-lane freeway, not a lot of cars around, but there's a CHP pulling somebody over on the right-hand side, and the guy's getting out of his car and walking back. And, of course, you hear the roar of 8 high-end cars, and this guy's head's like woo, 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 and he just headed back to his car. And this is in the back in the day of something called BlackBerry, which we all had, right. And it had a little, like, we loved it because it had a little speaker on it, and you could radio. And I just said, "Hey boss, he's coming." And he said, "Okay, we're going to get off up here and at the park, and we'll just all park. Take one for the team, Tom." And I'm like, "I know what that means." So I slow down. Guy red lights me. I get off at the same exit, and he gets out of the car. "What in the hell are you guys doing?" I said, "You guys had to be going 130, 140. I said, we weren't even over 100. And he goes, who are all these cars? And I said, oh, we're Monster. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's really, really cool. And I said, hey, you know the band Three Doors Down? He said, yeah, I know them. I said, well, that's them. We got a gig with them tomorrow. They're on a label. He goes, no way, I'm going to that show. I'm like, you are? So you can come over and meet the band? Okay. I said, can you do me a favor? I said, can you tell them we got to impound all the cars and they got to go to jail? And he goes, yeah, I'll do it.
You're evil. You're evil for that.
Oh, yeah. So we walk up, and he goes, everybody on the hood of the car. So here's the whole band on the hood of the car. And my boss's eyes are just like big as hell, like, what is going on? I said, you guys are all going to jail. I'm impounding all these cars, and you're going to see the judge. And Brad turns around and says, but I got a gig tomorrow night. And he goes, well, you ain't going to be there. And then we told him, because we had a photographer with us and a video guy with us. It was the craziest, funniest thing in the world. Then they all wanted to just kick my ass after that.
But that's a ruthless prank.
Oh, yeah. It was really good, though.
But at least nobody got in trouble, right?
No, and the cop let us go. And, of course, he came the next night. We took him backstage, and everything was man, they had the biggest security guy. This guy was from Germany, and they called him Herman the German. And if you ever seen Hulk Hogan back in the day, like at 7 foot 300, this was Herman the German, man. And this guy would just, he'd take up the space of 4 people. And he'd be on stage, man. And if you threw a bottle or anything, he would be off that stage. I saw one night, he had 2 guys in headlocks and kicking another guy and walking him out of it's just crazy.
You're done for.
Oh, yeah, done for, man. Just like, I've seen some crazy things on tour. Yeah, I learned a lot about rock and roll, hip hop. And I've been on a lot of tours with a lot of people now after that. That was my first kind of rodeo, but yeah, man, I've been fortunate to tour with a lot of people.
I know you got some cool stories about a LaFerrari. Was that one of the cars that was
involved? Yeah, man, the LaFerrari story. Yeah, so we were on the list to get like the best of the best cars. We got the first GT Carrera. That car, the lightest weight car. They almost outlawed them. Unfortunately, that's the car that Paul Walker died in. It's just the fastest. It shouldn't be, and he was with a professional driver,
right.
That he couldn't even handle. I drive that car. I used to be up on the freeway in that car, and I could do circles around the Lambo because it was so light. They get so mad at me because I would just circle on the freeway and just look at them, and people would just like, what are you doing? I'm like, yeah, that's how fast it is.
You zoom through.
Yeah, we ordered a LaFerrari. We had a warehouse in Vegas. We took a lot of cars to Vegas because we did a lot of gigs in Vegas. And so the car showed up, and the boss calls me and said, yeah, go pick up the LaFerrari, take it out to the warehouse. I'm like, okay. So I said, what about the plates and the registration? Oh, we'll get that later. I'm like, so you want me to drive this in Las Vegas without plates and license, right? You said, yeah. I said, all right. So, I'll take one for the team. I'll just do
another one for the team.
It's a LaFerrari, So, man, I'm going to pick up. So let me tell you about LaFerrari. They were supposed to make 200 of these cars. When they made, I think it was 99 or 100, 2 went missing out of the factory.
Interesting.
Yeah, just disappeared. $1 million car. So you had to put up, I think it was $500,000 or maybe $1 million to get one because they were going to sell for $2 million for the LaFerrari. And Ferrari announced that, and so all the guys that had their deposits, the 200 guys, they gave back 100 deposits to all those guys because they stopped making the car. Well, we were on the top 100 list, so we had the first one in the U.S. So I got it, and I'm driving it, and sheriffs light me up, right on Las Vegas Boulevard. I pull over, and the guy walks up. He goes, "Is this really a LaFerrari?" I said, "Yeah, the first one in the U.S." He said, "Are you crazy? There's no place." I said, "I just picked it up and took it to the warehouse." He goes, "I can't believe this is a real LaFerrari." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I sit in it?" I said, "Absolutely, sit in the thing." And so the guy, I said, "Would you like a ride in it?" He goes, "Come on." And so we took him around the block right away. I said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you just pretend to handcuff me so I can tell my boss the car got impounded?"
You're a big prankster.
Oh, I just love it, man.
Prankster.
Yeah, it's just funny. Yeah, so it was great. So I got that picture on my Instagram. It's really funny. Yeah.
We'll upload some of these pictures too because
sure.
Your life is absolutely unreal.
I know.
It's
too many stories. But of course, the biggest story of my life, is how we manufactured and was the inventor of Beats by Dr. Drei headphones. And so that's really a whole legacy of itself.
And you have a picture of that, and it's you, it's Noel, It's Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy to you, baby. Jimmy, not to the rest of us.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Iovine, one of the biggest influences in the music industry. Yeah. And then, of course, Dr. Drei.
And there's one other guy in there, Jimmy's right-hand man, Steve Berman.
Okay.
I don't know about him.
If
you listen to Eminem's music, he's got a couple of skits there with Berman in his music. It's kind of funny.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, when he walks into his office, threatens to shoot him and kill him. Yeah. We introduced him to our idea of making beats, and it came up to our office, and about 6 months later is when we signed the deal. But that was the very first meeting we ever had with everybody. Yeah.
And so there was multiple different meetings.
Oh yeah, there was multiple meetings. Yeah.
And before this, there was, instead of Beats by Drei, it was supposed to be.
Well, yeah. So what we did. So let me explain why we even wanted to make the headphone.
Okay.
So Steve Jobs is just probably one of the most brilliant guys I ever met. At Monster, we made a ton of Apple accessories, and even when the very first iPod came out and iPhone, there was a 30-pin adapter. We were the only aftermarket manufacturer that actually made accessories for Apple. So we used to go, and Apple was right up, 30 minutes from our office, and we used to go there a lot, and got to meet Steve Jobs a few times and interact with the company, and crazy. I saw the very first iPhone before it was ever even released, and it was nuts because at that time I was actually touring with the Police.
Wow.
And
band.
Yeah, the band, and we were working with Apple, and we actually had one of the Apple execs with us in Oakland at the concert, and he actually had a prototype of the very first iPhone with him and showing the band and us at the same time. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary. Yeah, so just crazy. But
we were talking about Beats by Drei, right? And we were talking about how that all got situated and started.
Oh, yeah. So you asked me about So the story is, the Apple iPod, the original one, and the iPhone ruined the music industry and ruined basically the electronics industry when it came to buying those big speakers, buying all the cables, buying all the stuff, because that generation and everybody from them on out just listened to the little white earbud.
Right.
Well, the little white earbud does not have bass on it. It does not have highs. It's very just, and when you talk to engineers at that time, they were just distraught because a musical engineer spends countless hours trying to perfect the sound of an artist in the studio and making amazing bass and making highs and making things that you can't even hear in an Apple iPod. You just wouldn't be able to hear that. And we knew at that time urban music was growing, and hip-hop was it was the number one genre in the world. And at that time, the number one artist in the world was Kanye West. And he was just on fire, and he was ready to do his college dropout tour, and I think that was the tour. I can't remember, it was so long ago now, but
legendary tour.
Yeah, but we hooked up with a guy that knew Kanye and knew his crew, and basically we tagged along on the tour for almost 8 months. Touring with him was just amazing, and I think I like the after parties the best because he can throw the best after party. I remember when we were in L.A., I think, we played Universal Amphitheater. It's not even there anymore, but he got this warehouse in like Santa Monica and just had it all decked out. And I can't remember who the sponsors were, but of course you always have a champagne sponsor and maybe a Henny sponsor and something like that. But
right.
Oh my God, like the after parties were just like incredible. And of course, if you're that type of stature and you want to go to a club or go to a dinner or whatever you want to do, it's really fun, man.
It's a done deal.
Yeah,
And you guys were trying to get him on board to do.
We wanted we wanted him to take it on because he was a top artist. So at that time we were new to signing, let's say, celebrities for brand building because Instagram was just kind of taking off. Twitter was just taking off. People were growing their own brands and stuff like that. And, we knew that having certain celebrities around your brand was just huge, and the more you could get on board and the more that you could interact with, the bigger your brand could be,
right?
And so the idea is if people had 1 million followers, you want to, that was kind of our minimum after a while. If you had 1 million followers, we're going to get you on our brand because you're going to help us build our brand. But it's not just that. Like, we used other brands to also build our brand. We made Adidas headphones. I got one right over here. It's really cool. So we did a deal with Adidas, and we made these in blue and black and white, and it matched their swag. And these are really, really cool headphones. Of course, all these are before Bluetooth, right? So
right.
but the sound, but the sound of these are amazing. But we came up with a technology because, like I said, you got to be different all the time. You just can't make headphones. But if you look right here, there's 2 holes. And this is for music sharing. So when you're with your friend on the plane, they put their headphone into this, and they can watch what you're watching as a movie, or they can listen to your same music.
I never even knew that existed.
And it really doesn't. Like we developed this, and we had it on all our headphones, which was really cool. But if you want to daisy chain it, you can have 3, 4, 5. You can sit around and you can watch a podcast together or whatever you want by sharing this and having just like one source basically. But that was a really cool feature that we put on the headphones back in the day.
Right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about some of these headphones. That one says Drake on it.
Yeah, I made those for his birthday party. So he owns a restaurant in Toronto, and I got invited up just for his close friends. And I made these really custom. These are really cool, actually, headphones. These are noise canceling, and this actually comes off. So you can actually make a custom band and put whatever you want on here.
Wow.
So I made actually these in different colors. I made gold. I made an OVO one. It's got the owl there for the birthday, and they're noise canceling. And these were called Inspirations by Monster, and they were really, really amazing headphone, very top quality at the time. Would compete with the Bose headphone, but we never signed a deal with Drake, but we were always very close with the camp and did a lot with him, and did a lot with his people, and of course got to tour with him and Lil Wayne when they had Wayne versus Drake tour, and then the Him and Future tour was amazing. But I started working with Drake when he just first started touring. He was only doing college tours. I first met him in Tucson and took him a bunch of gear down there and kind of introduced him to Beats and Monster at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so crazy to say because it's not very many people that have pictures with Drake, let alone meet him and hang out with him.
Yeah.
I know when we first met, it was New Year's 2015. We're in Vegas. I ran across you.
At the Marquee, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you called me. I had plans to do. I had my friends out in Vegas, and you called me, and you're like, "Hey, drop everything you're doing. We're going to the Cosmopolitan, the Marquee. Yeah. Drake's performing. I got Uriah Hall with me. I kicked this other guy off, so you can come join along." And I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
And it's so funny too, because people are like, well, wait a minute, you're involved with this, you're involved with that, you're involved. Like, why are you involved with UFC guys? I said, because we make the UFC headphones, man, the Octagon. Let me show you this. This is really cool. So signed a deal with a bunch of fighters, and we had Ronda Rousey, and we had the top fighters, as our, basically wearing these every time they came to the rink, and if you look, it's an Octagon right here.
Right.
And really just a dope big headphone. We wanted to make it really like beefy and meaty because fighters are aggressive and they're big guys, and
it's a good representation of the UFC.
Yeah, and you can see this stitching is kind of like the Ferrari or the Lamborghini stitching. Our founder Noel just loved this type of detail, and this is just something you won't see in a lot of headphones, and these are just so soft. Feel the cups on those. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know you're a big UFC fan too.
Oh, so, yeah, huge, and you can see the Octagon right here.
Yeah.
The stitching on it is beautiful. I mean, this just feels like a great quality product.
Yep. And so there's a guy that actually lives here. His name's AL3. You should have him on sometime. He's amazing. So he's the official UFC DJ.
Okay.
And he DJs just a different style, but
I'd love to have
but Dana White and him are really good. Dana actually, I think, hired AL3. He lives here. Dude's a foodie, man. I love this guy. Like, he knows the best little joints here in Phoenix where to get food. If you want to get fat, you just hang out with AL3, man. That got to put some weight on you. But he knows the best joints. I just love this guy. But one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But man, he brings it in house, man. If you go to a UFC event, man, that is him playing. He brings it down in there. But he DJs a little different. It was so crazy because he wanted us to cut headphones, so he only uses a single piece, because he has a monitor and he wants to hear what's playing. So he only uses a single, earphone when he DJs. It's very different the way he DJs, but it's
you guys
really
custom
cool.
made it for
him?
Yeah,
it went to the factory and we custom made some real cool, just one piece like headphones for him. Yeah.
Yeah, so and just to circle back to the Vegas thing, to validate some of the stories,
yeah.
Right? So I kind of thought you were full of shit. I'm not.
Everybody does. It's okay. I don't even tell people what I do because it's just unbelievable. But yeah, you're right. Everybody calls me out all the time.
So I ditch all my friends.
Yeah.
I go to the Cosmopolitan. You can't get into the Cosmopolitan, period.
Yep.
There's like a huge line.
Yeah, because New Year's Eve, you have to have a key to get in. They don't let you in.
Exactly.
Unless you got a table in the club or it's all closed down. 1 million people take this. If you've never been to New Year's in Vegas, do it one time because 1 million people hit the street. You can't even drive your car down Las Vegas Boulevard. It's shut down.
So you tell me to go to the front of the line.
Yep.
I skip this huge, 1,000 people line, walk to the front. I tell them, hey, Tom Land has me on the guest list. Here's my ID. They're like, no, Andre, get out of here. I'm like, oh, well, I go by Drei. Drei Marghitas? Okay, go ahead. You're in. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is happening.
That's VIP.
Yes, sir. I go to the front. There's a line to get into the marquee now once you're in the Cosmopolitan.
Yep.
There's a private elevator. You're like, Drei, over here. We go down the private elevator. We get in. Drake's there. Drake's supposed to perform 10 songs. He does 15.
Yeah.
Uriah's with us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just literally a story that I still tell to this day. One of the most legendary nights of my life.
Fun,
and this
though.
is your daily life.
And that's my daily life, man.
300 days out of the year.
And I entertain so much and do so many things. And do you know I've been to so many Grammys, and you can't even go to the Grammys. I've been to 15 Super Bowls in a row, 15 NBA All-Stars in a row, because we worked with so many players, and I used to work. I could be here for hours just telling stories, but I worked with the NBA PA, the Players Association, so we did tons of events with all the players, and we used to seed the whole NBA with headphones. And I mean the amount of players I know in the NBA, and I worked with Kobe, and I made him Black Mamba headphones, and I was always a big Laker fan. Grew up in LA, but Power Beats was really a cool story because. We signed, LeBron was one of the first people we ever gave beats to. So the 2008 Beijing Olympics, we launched Beats in 2008, and the entire Olympic team got seated with Beats.
And these are the Beats right here, right? You
brought those? No. They because in 2008 we only had one pair.
Okay.
We only had studios overhead.
Right.
And that's what we released. So these are Power Beats, though, and these were the first athletic over-the-ear, won't come off when you work out headphone. But, LeBron was a really big Beats guy, and he got a percentage of this particular headphone. And when Beats sold to Apple, I think he got $40 million. But he still does, Apple commercials for Beats, and it's pretty amazing. But you see LeBron on the back of the box, and, of course, Drei was always on the side of the box. It's so funny because there's so... At one time, the Treasury Department, we were such a big brand in the day that Louis Vuitton was the number one knockoff, Rolex was number 2, Beats was number 3. And yeah, man, I go around to these little stores or in New York and on Canal Street, and I'd see all these fake products. And every time you see Drei's face, it was pink. And we I wasn't involved in it, but we had certain guys working with the Treasury Department just going busting people all the time. And, in high schools, my son was, going here in Phoenix, and kids would take bags of fake products to school and sell them. And the problem is then you start getting a bad name for your brand because it doesn't sound the same. They're breaking all the time.
Right.
Those are just knockoffs.
Starts damaging the reputation.
But, we got so big so fast. We launched in 2008 during a recession, $300 headphone, and it was just we pounded every money into the marketing, and at that time, Lady Gaga just kind of came out and got big, and of course she was on Interscope with Jimmy, so they were able to do a brand with her, and these are called Heartbeats.
I love the design on that.
Yeah,
wow,
really cool.
Unique.
Heart. Yeah, so. I did a lot of tour stops with her, and we sold the headphones on tour with her events. She actually toured in Mexico, and she was doing stadium tours. And so in Mexico City, there's a stadium there that holds 110,000 people, for soccer, and she's playing the stadium. It's this big, huge arena, and they don't have. It's Mexico, bro. You got one way in and one way out of the stadium, and I'm just saying, man, her fans, I mean, they'll put 150,000 people in Mexico. They don't care in the stadium, but there's only one tunnel in, one tunnel out. Well, this enormous storm comes, and you know, first I go up to the VIP credential. I walk by this trailer 10 times to get my badge. You want to know why? Because it's Mexico. It's up on a wall, and you have to actually climb up on a wall and stand on a wall and hold a chain link fence to talk to the guy in the trailer to get your badge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Mexico City. Bro, it's Mexico, man. It's like a whole different thing. But this enormous storm comes in, the lightning and wind and thunder, they close the concert down, and the thunder and lightning was so bad and the rain was so bad. Well, people started panicking, and they started storming out of the stadium. And literally people started getting like crushed. And, you know, I know stories about, you know, soccer, all this stuff. And I started to panic. And I was with my distributor and some people from Mexico City. And I seen this chain link fence, and it was about 20 feet tall. And I was in really good shape at this time. You know, I said to myself, I'm not staying here. I'm going over this fence right now, because if I stay in this little area right here, I'm going to get trampled.
You're gonna get crushed,
and
right.
So I scaled this fence like I was 20 years old again, and made it over the top. And once I did it, everybody started doing it. Well, the fence got so heavy it collapsed, you know. And then there was a second exit, you know, out of that tunnel, right. Man. But man, it was crazy in Mexico, and yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
And I love these stories, Tom. And I'm probably gonna have you on like 5 or 6 more
I
times.
know, bro. I got so many. I got a lot of stories. But you know, so we not only had the Gaga Beats and we had the Power Beats, but this was a special headphone that we did. We only did this for Christmas. And this is a Justin Bieber, you know. And one thing about Beats was our packaging, because we just made it so special and just super high end, because if you're going to buy a $300 headphone, you know. And this was solos, and they were purple because Justin liked purple. And I think we made 10,000, maybe 20,000 pairs of these. I don't even remember, but they're only available at Christmas, and they sold out. And people were going online and selling them for like $1,000 a pair. But, you know, it's really the packaging that you open, and, you know, you had the red cord and all the original packaging and all the, you know, great design, and then the nice little neoprene case that it came with. And then, of course, the opening of the headphones. And then you open them up, and what do you get when you open them up? Well, you get a Justin Bieber signed headphone.
Wow.
But that's only for me, because he signed these for me. They didn't come like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, wait, he did that for everybody? That's a lot of headphones to sign.
So Stevie Wonder, no, I got the only probably pair in the world of a Justin Bieber signed headphone, never used. Yeah.
Wow.
But Stevie Wonder does a Christmas show every year, and it was so crazy. Drake was playing the Christmas show, so he was there. I knew Drake, and then of course Bieber was there, and it was you know, right after we released the headphone, I actually took my daughter and her friend to the Stevie Wonder Christmas. And Stevie Wonder was a very close friend of ours. We did a lot of stuff with Stevie over the years. I got a lot of great Stevie Wonder stories, legacy artist. And but yeah, my daughter got to go in the dressing room and got to meet Justin. And, you know, I think she was 12 at the time. And, you know, her and her friend, and we got signed Justin Bieber headphones. Yeah, life-changing, man.
Wow. I mean, I can't imagine how impactful that was for her. What a cool dad, you know, to be able to do something like that.
My kids grew up in a different type of realm, and so did their friends that got to do a lot of special things. Yeah.
A lot of blessings.
A lot of blessings.
What do you got behind you, Tom?
So when we talk about legacy artists, you know, there's very few of those. You know, you know, when you think about the history, so, you know, I've got to work with bands like Earth, Wind & Fire, and we made Earth, Wind & Fire, toured with them. What an amazing band. If you've never seen them, just, you know, more pieces on stage than anything you can imagine. But my boss was a big jazz guy, and him and actually George Benson. And George Benson in the 70s, he was the biggest artist in the world. You know, I think George has won something like 10 Grammys, maybe 12 Grammys. But legacy artist, hit after hit after hit. Still tours today. In fact, he left this week for London and Paris, and he gets sold out concerts. In fact, later on, you know what we should do? I'm going to take you with me, because the greatest venue in the world, in the United States, and if you've never been, and most people never go, is Hollywood Bowl. And when George plays Hollywood Bowl, 17,500 people, you're allowed to bring your own bottle of wine into Hollywood Bowl, and they have VIP right by the stage. Of course, that's where we're going to be. And, of course, we'll have access backstage to George, too. But so George was on our Monster Music label, and George wanted to record in the Henson Studios. the Henson Studios are very special in Hollywood. It was Charlie Chaplin. It was the very first movie studio ever in Hollywood, and I think the 30s, maybe in the 20s, for black and white, and Charlie Chaplin owned it. It's still there today, but of course, Henson took it over, I believe, in the 70s when the Muppets were big, and they made all the Muppet movies and all the Muppet TV shows there, and it's still, but it's some of the biggest music studios in the world. And back when music was music, you recorded with live sessions, so you play guitar, you had a drummer come in, and George still records that way today. Doesn't record in a basement on an Apple computer. That's just not how legacy artists records. So George wanted to record there, and of course, most musicians record about 11 o'clock at night, and he likes to record on weekends because he doesn't want anybody around, and we kind of have, so we had Studio A, the big studio there, and we're there, I think, second or third night. It's a Saturday night. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I see all these people walking down the hall. I asked the engineer, I said, hey, man, I thought we were here. Oh, that's just UCLA students. Like, they're just coming through. I said, all right. So the next night I see all the same people coming through. I'm like, all right. All right. What's going on here? So I know. So I step out. And this place is huge, bro. There's studio after studio after. I mean, Henson Studios, and it's all dark and it's not really lit. But I hear a lot of people and commotion. And I just kept walking. I go outside, walk in another building. Then I finally see all these cars and some vans back there. And I walk back in the studio. There's Paul McCartney recording. Can't believe that Sir Paul McCartney is recording at Henson Studios at the same time we are. I ran back. I told George, I said, George, you'll never believe it. I said, Paul McCartney's recording. He said, Paul, I haven't seen him since. And he said, let's go say hi. He goes and talks to Paul, and he asks Paul, hey, you think you could sit on this one session with and so Al Jarreau was a very amazing artist as well. And it kind of toward the end of his career, George helped him out, and they did this album together, which was amazing. And they toured together, which I did that tour worldwide. And but he asked Paul, do you think you could sit on a track? And he says, come on, there's publishing, there's the label, there's this. And George said, you're Sir Paul McCartney. You do whatever you want. He said, yeah, you're right. And Paul came in.
He's above politics.
And Paul, I left, but Paul came in the next day, and they laid down one track one time with Tim, Paul, and George, and they laid it down one time, and Paul McCartney was on the album on a song. Yeah. And so we released the album.
Such legendary names.
Yeah, bro. We released the album right here on Monster Music, and this was with George Benson and Al Jarreau. And, of course, George signed this to me. And this is me, Noel, George, and Al. They did a private concert for us in Vegas, and we gave them Lifetime Achievement Awards on stage in front of about 5,000 people through all our retailers, which just is amazing. That's another whole thing, because we used to put on a private concert every year at CES, and we've had James Brown, we've had Santana, we've had Earth, Wind & Fire. We did Earth, Wind & Fire's 40th birthday. We had Stevie Wonder come and play that, and a whole bunch of other artists. And funny story, after the show was over, I'm backstage with Stevie. We had an after party, and then we had Raphael Sadiq and some other amazing musicians playing at the after party. About 1 o'clock in the morning, Sheila E. shows up, and she starts playing on stage. And then Verdine White from Earth, Wind & Fire starts playing his guitar, and Stevie's backstage with his head of security. And this guy's Francis is bigger than Herman the German. This guy's just a tower, and I'm very close with Francis. And Stevie says, man, are those guys jamming again? And he said, yeah. He told Francis, go get my harmonica. So now Stevie's on stage. You got Sheila E. You got like all these legacy artists up there all playing, just jamming whatever they want. And it's like 2:30 in the morning. They're still going. And we were in the Paris Hotel back in one of the ballrooms. And I opened the doors, and people are walking by, and this guy goes, gosh, look at that. Those are some really good what do you call it when you have the fake, like they have them in Vegas? Impersonator. Those are some really great impersonators for Stevie Wonder and Sheila.
Like, little did you know.
And anybody could have came in and watched this, and there was maybe 30 people in the room watching. I was just like, unbelievable. Yeah.
Some of the most legendary people ever. And you talk about birthday parties. You talk about all these legends. Yeah. And I know you got a story about
But wait, legends. I got to tell you one thing about George.
Tell me about George.
So we won 2 Grammys on that album, and I toured all through Europe with George. And we go to Switzerland, and it's happening right now. It starts July 2nd every year, 21 days. Montreux Jazz Festival in Lake Switzerland. If you could ever go, there's 3 stages. And the guy that founded this in the 60s, his name was Claude. Well, Claude lives up on top of the Swiss Alps. And so we're there, and Claude's very prideful. And so I didn't know what a Maybach was. He sent George a Maybach and sent me a Maybach. And so these are stretched Mercedes that are $250,000, very rare. And there's a short Maybach, but then there's a long Maybach, which is like a limo. You know, the seats recline in the back. You got a refrigerator in the back of the car, you know, filled with champagne back there, and you got your own driver. I'm like, why can't we just ride together? Nope. Claude insists on everybody having no Maybach. I'm like, wow, okay. So
I wouldn't be opposed to
so
it.
we're leaving. we're leaving Geneva. We're leaving Lake Switzerland, and we're going up through the Alps, and we just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and we go to this private dinner for all the sponsors of the Montreux Jazz Festival, and it's a tribute to George, and they flew in a private chef from Paris just to make a private dinner for us, and there's a helicopter pad, and we're at this castle, like right out of a movie, like over, and you're up in the. You know, this is in July, so it's warm, 80 degrees down at the lake, but Swiss Alps still got snow on it. So you got snow and it's warm and just amazing, amazing, amazing. And the guy actually has an underground, like, museum that was built by the Bank of Switzerland, and it's all vaulted and underground, like, layers, like almost like a bomb shelter down there with all rock. But Elvis played there. He has all Elvis's stuff. I mean, Aretha Franklin. This guy had the biggest music collection of all the artists that ever played Montreux Jazz Festival, including a ton of stuff from George.
Right.
And that was just amazing. But George lives here in Arizona. Still,
he does? Okay.
Still a great friend. Go to lunch a lot. We went to lunch last week over here at Capitol Grill, and we were driving George's Rolls over there, and we pulled in for lunch at Capitol Grill, and George sees this guy pull up in a Bentley. And I'd never seen a Bentley like this in my life. It looked just like the Mercedes, like the Maybach, like really long. I'm like, and in the seat it said 1 of 25, and
it's like a collector's.
Yeah, it's very rare. Like, you know, and George says, "Hey, man, I've been looking for one of those. I'd really like to buy that car from you. Would you take $200,000 for it?" The guy said, "Oh, that's not for sale, man. That's a really rare car." And we went in. All of a sudden, the guy comes in. He goes, "You really give me $200,000 cash for that car?" And George says, "Yeah, man, just meet me here tomorrow. I have a cashier's check for $200,000. I'll even buy you lunch." Next day, deliver the car. And the next day after that, we went to the casino and we were driving that.
In the car?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Just right on the spot.
Right on the spot.
I've never have I seen somebody offer somebody $200,000 cash and get the deal done right then and there.
Yeah, 24 hours. Meet back at Capitol Grill with the car. Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. If I ever got my hands on one, I would sell it to him too. That's just legendary to be able to say that you sold him that car out of all people. You know, let alone, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But that is, you know, George is touring Europe right now. He invited me to go with him this week. I'm just busy doing a bunch of stuff. Had to come do this podcast, so I couldn't make it to Europe. But in the fall, August, man, I'm taking you to Hollywood Bowl, man. We're gonna go see George, and it's just, the venue is so amazing at a nighttime in Hollywood at Hollywood Bowl. There's nothing like it, man. But we got to go.
Yeah, I'm in. You know, anytime that I get to hang out with you, you know, I'm all there. It's life-changing stuff every single time.
Yeah.
So let's speaking of life-changing stuff, let's finish up here with your Michael Jordan story. It's Michael Jordan's birthday party.
Yeah, so I do NBA All-Stars every single year, and Mike's birthday's on the 17th of February. He throws the largest, craziest birthday party, and I got a friend that works for Jordan. He's a very famous guy. And, you know, he works with all the athletes in all sports, and he's, you know, a big to-do. And, you know, he's put me on the list, so I get to go every year to the party. And he has artists every single year. You know, and I work with a lot of artists, know a lot of people. And, you know, so the last one, I was in Chicago. This was February of 19. He had a whole warehouse, an old movie studio that he rented outside. You know, he's got to spend a couple million for his birthday party because it's all the food you can eat and drink. And he owns 3 restaurants in Chicago. He has a steakhouse, a seafood house, and I think an Italian house. But as you walked in, they had their own restaurants built in there. And you can make a reservation at the restaurant inside the warehouse just to eat. I mean, that's his stuff is so top notch. You know, and then he has all these VIPs with the roped off, and every player this big, like, you know, gets their own like little VIP, and Michael's in the middle, and it's just an amazing party every year. And he always has art play, and, you know, I walked in and I looked at the stage, and I'm like, man, I know that gear up there. And he'd hired Miguel, and so I'm close friends with Miguel.
Yeah, you guys are always together.
Yeah, my son was with me, and he said, "Dad, there's Drew over there." Drew's Miguel's road manager, great guy, man, just one of the nicest guys in the industry. And we went up and said, man, I didn't know you guys were playing this. He said, yeah, my last minute they hired us to play this. Went backstage to the dressing room, and, we like drinking some 1942,
Best
and, oh, yeah, man. So we were drinking some of that, and, he went out on stage, and, of course, I get to walk out on the entourage, and it's fun. Like, you feel like you're part of the gig, and, he just kills it on stage, of course, because he's Miguel. And it was just another great night. But that was the only time I was with Miguel at NBA All-Stars, because we did New Orleans, and he opened up, and T.I. closed it. And they didn't go on until 1 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't leave that place till 5 a.m. And I was like, damn.
That's the true definition of an all-nighter right there.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Tom, I love your stories. I'm going to bring you on at least
no problem, man.
Times.
No problem.
I want you to tell me a little bit before I let you go. I know I keep saying the last thing.
Yeah.
You're just so damn interesting. I know you're not, obviously Monster is done.
Yeah.
Right, since 2018.
Yeah.
Do you have something that you're doing now, a service that you offer?
Yeah, so I'm a consultant now for a lot of companies, and I basically do public speaking. Companies will bring me in to talk to their executives, or business owners coming in to talk to their management team, just about how to be successful, how to treat people. And one of our roles, at Monster was to speak to retailers, have thousands of people. I've spoken to actually, up to 5,000 people at a time on stage doing 2-hour presentations, just for motivational speaking. And it's, so I have a thing called The Journey. I tell about my journey, and, I take particular interest in what they do, and I create concepts for them with their business and how to think different and how to grow their business differently. Yeah.
And where can somebody get in touch with you to be able to find that information? Is there an email on Instagram? Is there anything in particular?
My email, I remember I used to travel 300 days a year for 20 years. Yes, people don't even believe that about me. It's so funny because when I walk into a Hilton, they have a thing called Diamond Member. And when I walk in, they always go, wait a minute, you're a lifetime Diamond Member? What is that? I said, yeah. If you stay 1,500 nights in a Hilton, they'll give you lifetime membership. But wait a minute, that's 5 years. Yeah, I lived in Hilton for 5 years. That's why I got that. Road. Yeah, man, my status with airlines, and I got lifetime everything. But yeah. So what'd you just ask me?
Your email, your contact information. So if people wanted to hire you as a consultant,
it goes back to what I was just talking about. So it's in the air 247, in the air 24/7 at gmail.com.
That's appropriate.
Okay. Yeah.
I was wondering, I was like, where's he going with this story? But that way to tie it all in.
But that ties it in. Yeah. But it's best, honestly. I think I have 100,000 unopened emails right now. I just can't even keep up with my email because, my lifestyle's a little different now. I just travel around the world, sit on beaches. It's a little different. But it's best just to get in touch with me by my phone number. Okay. Yeah. 415-716-0045.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll have people reach out if they want to hire you for consulting, because you're the best in the game.
Man. I just you know what? It's just we have a lot of fun together. We get to tell fun stories and just like to inspire people. It's really fun.
Well, you definitely inspire me, Tom, and you have ever since 7 years ago since I met you.
I'm glad, man.
Absolutely, it means the world to me that you came here. I know we got a game to go watch, so we'll get out of here.
Yeah, bro.
I won't hold you any longer.
Why are we doing these type of things during Warriors game? God.
Celtics Nation, though.
Steph Curry with the shot, boy.
Hey, tell him, Tom. I love it. All right, Tom, let's get out of here.
All right, let's do it.